Liverpool are in a situation that's quite precarious for a lot of reasons. Big winners, heralded as the best club in the world for large portions of last season, deservedly so for those portions, until they were knocked out of the Champions League by the actual best team in the world, champions of England nonetheless, only to then lose a major part of the squad in horrific fashion in Diogo Jota, the biggest spenders in the world with a perfect start to the year, currently only 1 point off the top, yet also, strangely enough, currently slumped in the corner for a breather in the international break after a nasty three-piece combination from their last three opponents. Something's wrong, I guess, but what? I didn't do a predictions video. I don't do that sort of stuff. You guys know this. Liverpool are going to win the league. Not much can convince me of otherwise. Every other team that could really rival them has too many flaws. Liverpool have flaws, but they're still winning. So, that aged poorly. I mean, listen, it didn't come from nowhere. As reigning champions, you are going to be given the benefit of the doubt. Anyway, hi, hope you're doing well. Welcome back. It's the international break, so it's also time to take a little bit of stock. It's been a while since I've made one of these videos, you know, a bit of a look at a team in crisis that isn't named Manchester United, and praise be, we love these opportunities. If you point out the next fixture in the comment section, I'll know that you're no fun at parties. Now, this video is coming out late because I did not watch the Chelsea-Liverpool match live, nor did I watch the Crystal Palace-Liverpool match live. Those are two errors that have since been corrected in the days that have gone past. And I must say that the problems that Liverpool are experiencing right now, they're quite familiar and also consistent with the problems that they were facing last season, albeit much more amplified and more difficult to hide. But we'll cover all of that in the video as we go along. Like I said, Liverpool are only 1 point off the top. I would hardly call this a crisis, and clearly they haven't broken in their new players yet. They're still a top side based on personnel alone. I'm of the opinion that Arsenal is the only team to have them beat on a 25-man basis, but that's just my opinion. For some reason, Liverpool decided to postpone their transitional new manager blues until 7 games into his second season, which, you know, I don't really understand the logic here, but listen, it's welcomed by many. Enzo Maresca is one of them. You either die a black magic merchant or live long enough to see yourself downed after the 90th minute twice in a row. Arne Slot's luck meter seems to have drained before our very eyes, only in the space of a couple of weeks. Federico Chiesa and Inshallah is not an infinite buff, it seems. After 11 games being played so far this season in all competitions, Liverpool haven't really convinced all that much, and really the only thing that's been papering over the cracks for them has been 8 goals that they've scored in the 83rd minute or after. But that defense can't be covered up for all year. With 9 goals conceded in the league, the only team that's conceded more than them in the top 10 is... Moving along. Last year, when Arne Slot arrived at Liverpool, he was the talk of the town. For good reason too. Tactical innovation, a willingness to learn, and also that blunt charisma. And he did all of that without really spending all that much money, or any money at all, apart from a Federico Chiesa who was injured throughout the entire year. There was this big, you know, sense of anticipation that coming into this year it would really be a breakout year after the hundreds of millions that's been spent on all this new talent, but it just hasn't really materialized. And yes, like I said, it's hardly a crisis to be in the position that they're in right now, but when a team like Liverpool loses this many games in a row, narratives are going to be talked about, and YouTube videos and articles and all that are going to be, created. So it's the world we live in. Liverpool have always been wasteful in attack. They miss a lot of opportunities. This is something that hasn't really mattered in the past due to the high frequency of chances that they create. They're still creating and scoring those chances. They're only 2 off Manchester City in first place for the most amount of goals scored in the league. They have 15 in only 7 games. But they're failing to capitalize on many of these chances when it really matters, and their defending has really been lacking. Of course, these problems bleed into each other, but before we go into all of that, first I want to talk about Liverpool's defense. Now, ironically, the major signing, or kind of the only major signing that Liverpool failed to get in this window, is the one that seems to be haunting them the most, a centre-back spot. Imagine being Marguehi right now, you know, really wanting a move to Liverpool, having it be this close to actually happening, only for it to be blocked by his manager. reportedly. A man that threatened to leave the club if his captain was sold, only to now be rumored to be a top candidate for the Manchester United job in the event of Ruben Amorim being sacked. Quote, "I'm aware of the rumors, but that's all they are. I'm staying neutral and completely calm, concentrating on my daily work with the players and staff and simply trying to enjoy it." I don't know about you guys, but that does not sound like a man that's denying the rumors. Let's put it that way. Mark Gahey must be loving this timeline. But Palace are flying high right now, and why ruin a good thing? Don't be like me, big man. You know, every time you catch yourself saying the words, "I can fix her," it's never going to work out well. You know, physically, emotionally, you'll end up being a husk of the man that you once were before saying those words. Liverpool's defense. Liverpool have always had a leaky defense, even going back to last season. We all know that to be true, but it didn't really matter because they would just outscore their opponents. They're not doing that last part anymore though. For the longest time, Liverpool were the blueprint, the epitome of counter-pressing, preventing your opponent from progressing and turning their build-up into goals for themselves. And remember, this is not only last season, it's the Liverpool brand for the last 10 years, the Klopp brand, the Slot brand. But it's also well documented that if you're able to play through that first line of defense, that counter press, and get into their midfield, into their final third, it's not as hard as you might think to get lucky. It's a lot easier to get into those positions now. Let's take a look at some of the goals conceded so far this year and see if we can spot any patterns in particular. Here's Crystal Palace in the Premier League from just about 2 weeks ago from recording this video. Here's Tinashe getting caught in possession early in the game, something that happens quite frequently actually. He gets squeezed by Palace's press, gets dispossessed, and Sarr is off, with Alisson coming to the rescue when the eventual shot comes in. Right now, Liverpool's flanks are quite vulnerable and there's a pretty high susceptibility to long diagonals and letting the ball bounce and failing to recover that second ball. We see that over here as Palace carve out yet another opportunity. This next one happens off screen to the right, so you can't really see it from the screenshot. But Konate for some reason pushes up to play Sarr off sides while he's already started his run and started from an onside position, despite the fact that the ball is already in play and he scrambles to recover. It's another chance that should have resulted in a goal, but Liverpool are lucky as it cracks the inside of the post by a Mateta strike. In fact, so often this season I've seen a lack of communication or a lack of organization between Van Dijk and Konate or whoever's playing CB for Liverpool that's led to balls going in successfully behind, and it's quite worrying. Here it is in the Community Shield. This is the attack that led to Palace's penalty, which gave Palace their first goal. It's just so easy to bypass the midfield and play this ball through. Back to the most recent Premier League clash between these two sides, and both goals that Palace scored came from set pieces, the absolute bane of a weak defense. For the first goal, a corner is allowed to bounce and bobble around the box. For the second, it's a result of a frantic finish late in the game and Frimpong being caught out after a long throw. European football's new favorite hack. Imagine what a prime Rory Delap would cost in today's market. I have it on good authority that Arsene Wenger still loses sleep over this man. It is getting dark outside. Much better. Again, speaking about how easy it is to bypass Liverpool in the midfield this season, we go back again to the Community Shield, where Crystal Palace well and truly do have their number this season. This is for their second goal to make it 2-2. A ball easily won in the middle, a lack of pressing aggression, Wharton to Sarr, and a really easy looking but brilliant goal. Perhaps this is useful information to anyone that still thinks that the Community Shield is a nothing game that we can't really take anything away from, because the champions, Liverpool, are still playing like the way they did in that game in a lot of ways. 11 games into the new season. Let's look at the Galatasaray game and show another example of a team that's found it easy to weave through their midfield. Akgün gets the ball in the midfield and maneuvers a great position, has a lot of time to find Yilmaz, who really should have scored a goal here. It was a penalty scored by Victor Osimhen in this game that was ultimately Liverpool's undoing, but it probably could and should have been a lot worse. Again, we see another example of Victor Osimhen going 1v1 against Liverpool's keeper but failing to score. A real let-off for Liverpool because we all know how good this man can be. Versus Chelsea, when I was rewatching this match, I couldn't really believe my eyes the things I was seeing. For the first goal, Caicedo has enough time to file his taxes with the space he's given here. There's brilliant support running being done owned by Malo Gusto to keep Van Dijk and Kerkez occupied. But what is this effort from McAllister? It's crazy stuff, man. Caicedo composes himself for the shot twice before launching that rocket. The second goal was again a case of just switching off. Moments before we see Kerkez bending over in exhaustion, he's gassed, and Estevao takes advantage and wins it. I thought Chelsea were great in this game. They were winning the majority of the 50-50s. They were working incredibly hard. It was a great showing from them against the champions. Now, I have already said this earlier on in the video, but I feel like now that I've gone over all these chances and examples and kind of painted Liverpool in quite a bad light, I feel like I have to say it again. Liverpool have been generating a massive amount of chances in all of these games. Like, it's really just a matter of time before they convert the majority of them. They're just having a lot of trouble doing it right now. So things can switch just like that, as quickly as that, and the narrative will flip on its head again. And I can see that happening. But in the meantime, we are left having to question, some of these tactics and having to question what's going on around the club. There isn't really any consistency in this team when it comes to the starting 11 right now, most evident in the midfield area. Last season, we knew what we were getting. We knew that it was going to be that Sobol, Graven, Mac midfield, which sounds pretty cool. I'm pretty sure someone said that before, but I'm going to pretend like I just said it for the first time. But now, we have so many players. Well, Liverpool has about 5 positions or 5 spots available for about 10 players. 10 players who all believe that they should be superstars and starting and doing really well, which is what you want in a team, but doesn't work so well when the manager doesn't seem to have struck up a harmony, found a way to put all these chess pieces together to make them work in the best way possible. For so long, Liverpool's fullbacks have been one of their biggest strengths. They're not exactly where I would look to for top performers at the moment. And I know that he's been playing there lately, but I wouldn't really put Dominik Szoboszlai in that same category because I think he's been quite good this season, at least when I've watched him. He's just playing out of position and also trying to play several positions at the same time. Speaking of which, Mohamed Salah's lack of tracking back has really been costing Liverpool, but it wasn't that big of a problem before when they had Dominik Szoboszlai covering up for his every move consistently, which he can't do anymore because he's being played further and further back. The only problem, the major problem with Szoboszlai, in my eyes, is that Liverpool only have one of him. I would be a silly man to count out Florian Wirtz this early in the year, and I think you would be too. But he's not in good form at the moment, we can all admit that. He's missed quite a few clear-cut chances that I've seen, and he's probably also been a little bit unlucky with the fact that some of his teammates have failed to convert the opportunities that he's made for them. And he hasn't grabbed an assist or two. His record is looking a bit barren right now. I do think that Liverpool are missing someone like Luis Diaz. I don't think they have anyone that has the tenacity that he did, that relentless drive and tenacity. Yes, he may not have played his best games all the time, but what he gave you was just this ruthless hard work, which you can see him applying at Bayern Munich right now. Coincidentally, he actually scored twice over the weekend. I think Chiesa has probably done enough to deserve a little bit more game time, but it does seem like he has the right attitude. I believe a couple of weeks ago, he was left off of Liverpool's Champions League squad and responded extremely professionally, just saying that he's there to work hard and try and get into the team next time. So hats off to him. And then we have Alexander Isak. For a man that loves going on strike so much, he hasn't exactly been the striker that we all know him to be. That was terrible. But let's be real here. The aura of invincibility, that champion glow, that inevitability of red glory has fallen away for these guys at the moment. But no team is without their faults, which is why I think that the likelihood that this is just a blip are quite high. Today, Liverpool, tomorrow, Arsenal, the next day, Man City. It's a very competitive league. Anything can happen. And there we have it. Let me know what you guys think about Liverpool, about the Premier League, about all the things that are happening right now. If you haven't seen it so far, I made a Sir Alex Ferguson video the other day talking about his Aberdeen days. And if you're a Manchester United fan and you want some fuzziness at the moment, some good times, go ahead and watch that. And if you're someone that thinks that Ferguson just got lucky at United or have been underestimating him when comparing him to other managers, then you can check that one out too. And the next one will be also another big one. It'll be on Bayern Munich, so that'll come out probably early next week or later in the week. We'll see how it goes. That's all for me today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you're having a great day. Cheers, and I will catch you in the next one.